Hi guys, so today I am bringing you a review of 5 books. I'm going to try this format of batch reviewing so I can get through more books for you guys and give you more reviews. So let me know in the comments below how you like this format. I am certainly open to suggestion if you prefer, you know, more in-depth one-on-one reviews. Let me know if you like this format. Let me know if you want kind of a mix. Also let me know. So to start with, I will be discussing H. Rider Haggard's King Solomon's Mines. I read this book for my Literature the Fantastic course, and it is a Lost World fantasy. Now, if any of you have read or watched The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, this is where Alan Quatermain comes from. This is the source text for that. So if you want to read all the source texts and you didn't know where Quatermain came from, this is it. I find this book very problematic for a couple of reasons. Reason number one being it is super sexist. Quatermain repeatedly mentions how there are no petticoats in this book, and he's really dismissive of the feminine style of writing, and basically is just very not the nicest to women. There are only 2 women in this book. One is a witch, the other is a virgin sacrifice. So that kind of gives you an idea of the gender setting in this book. I won't go into too much detail about this because I really want to get into more detail about my second problem, which is the blatant racism. Even for this time, I've read a lot of 18th and 19th century fiction. This is super racist. Like, super racist. It's basically, Haggard is a huge fan of the Empire, and he basically makes this book about how great imperialism is and how great Britain is, and it's really problematic for me. He's really dismissive of African culture. This is set in Africa. Basically, the premise of the story is Quatermain and his friends Good and Sir Henry go in search of Sir Henry's brother, who went in search of King Solomon's Mines, and they find Kukuana Land, which basically is this lost world where the natives have been allowed to roam free. Yeah, super racist. Like, even the language used makes me uncomfortable. So, unfortunately, I had to give this 2 stars. I didn't give it 1 star. I do think that the story is interesting. I just wish Haggard had not been a sexist asshole and not been a racist asshole, and then I probably would have enjoyed it a lot better. This is kind of like this was described in my class as a boys' fantasy. Yeah. So take with that what you will. Basically, I recommend it for people who want to read the source text for A League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Otherwise, give it a pass. So the next book I have to review is Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere. Unfortunately, I didn't love this Gaiman. I found it a bit dull, which is really unfortunate because I love Neil Gaiman. Yeah, I was really let down by this one. Basically, the premise is there is a London above and a London below, and while the 2 exist side by side, they don't really interact with each other. And the main character is London above, which is the London we know, and he sees somebody from London below, and he helps them, and he gets sucked into her world, and he isn't really able to go back to his world, and the whole premise of the book is him trying to get back to London above. There's more to it than that, but I'm really giving you a brief synopsis. Honestly, I just found this dull. I didn't find the characters particularly likable. I know that this is one that people really love, so I'm sorry if I'm insulting your book. But I just didn't enjoy this one, unfortunately. So I would give this a pass. It got 2 stars because, you know, it was moderately enjoyable. It's Gaiman, his writing's fantastic, but like, it was dull. So the next one is George Orwell's Keep the Aspidra Flying. I read this because Barry and Ariel read this. They did a buddy read a while ago, and their reviews were really fantastic for it. So I wanted to give this a go. I love Orwell. I love 1984 and Animal Farm. I will say, if you are not an Orwell person, if you haven't read any Orwell before, don't start with this book. It is not as accessible, I find, as Animal Farm or 1984. But once again, it is a novel about social commentary. Basically, the main character decides to step outside of his social status and, you know, let himself be degraded by his living standards, and he lets them slip. But the problem with this is that he keeps his he keeps his former acquaintances, and there is always this issue of money for him. And at times I wanted to reach through the pages and just shake him. Everything was about money. Everything was about the importance of money, and it made me really uncomfortable, but in a good way, as Orwell tends to do. Basically, Orwell makes me uncomfortable because he's speaking the truth, and it's not truths that you necessarily want to think about. So I gave this 4 stars. I will warn people that there are some attempted rape scenes, some like pressures to have sex. So if you are uncomfortable with that, give this book a pass, but I do highly recommend it. So the next book is Anthony Trollope's The Warden. Oh, Anthony Trollope, I thought I was going to love you, but I found you dull as a doornail. Oh my god, guys, this book was dull. Sorry if you guys like it. No, couldn't do it. I struggled, I put it aside like 3 or 4 times, and then I finally just, and this is a slim volume. This is like 200 pages. This shouldn't be an issue for me to read. But yeah, basically the story is about the Church of England and how it gives out, positions? No, I'm not using the right word, but basically they give out occupations. There we go. And the occupation of warden in the small town looks after the hospital and these 12 elderly gentlemen who have been given a pension, and basically the whole plot revolves around whether or not he has the right to the income of that position and the amount of income for that position. And it's just kind of dull. I have the next 2 books in the Barchestershire Chronicles. I'm debating about whether or not I'm going to read them or not. I might give them one more chance. Yeah, it was dull. That's really all I can say for it. I gave it 2 stars. I didn't hate it, but I just found it really dull. So now on to a more positive review, of course, because it is Shirley Jackson's Hangman. As you guys know, I have talked about We Have Always Lived in the Castle and The Haunting of Hill House on this channel before. I've done full reviews for them. I love Shirley Jackson. I would not recommend this for people who can't handle books that don't explain everything. As always, Shirley Jackson leaves you with questions and being like, what just happened? I want more, and she leaves you hanging every single time. I adored this. I thought it was fantastic. I think I gave it like 4 stars on Goodreads. It wasn't flawless because, you know, it's not We Have Always Lived in the Castle, so, but it still is wonderful. Basically the premise is this young girl goes away to college. Her father is a writer who's well known, and it's her slow kind of, you know, uncomfortableness with her situation, like her social standing, and also her kind of descent into madness, although you're not really sure if she's going crazy or not, or if what you're reading is actually happening. Just fantastic. A really good coming of age novel. I would highly recommend this. I wouldn't recommend this for your first Jackson. Do The Haunting of Hill House or We've Always Lived in the Castle. I'm still working my way through Jackson's bibliography, so out of the 3, I would say that this is less accessible than those 2. I think that they're a little easier to get into. I certainly think We've Always Lived in the Castle is, as far as I have read, Jackson's best work. But I do highly recommend this, like all of Jackson's work. But yeah, so that is my review of those 5 books. So let me know if you guys like this format or if you want me to go back to doing individual reviews. Yes, I did cut off all of my hair. I know I didn't really mention that at the beginning of the video. I cut off like 8 inches and donated it. Yeah, that I just felt like I needed a change. So if you were curious about that, it was kind of a whim and I just chopped off a bunch of it. But yeah, so I will see you guys later on in the week with another video. Bye.